got old.
That's to be honest with you, the wake surfing has revitalized me because skating fucking hurts, man. You slam on concrete, wood, whatever it was. I came out here, so being from Regina, I came out here on a train, 1988. 88. And my intent was to go see 7 Seconds open for the Circle Jerks down at Richards on Richards.
So we're talking punk.
I was in the band.
Heyday.
I was in a band opening for S&View, opening for DOA and No Means No.
What was the name of the band?
Insight.
Which
is named after a Dead Kennedy song.
Sick.
Yeah. So came out here on a train, 30 hours, and just so happened to be skating like probably the best I'd ever skated. Richmond Skate Ranch is there.
Sick.
And hop on a bus, go down to Richmond, have no fucking clue where I'm going, and go there and session this like the Expo 86 mega ramp was there.
Yeah.
And I remember dropping in on that, kind of a proving ground, right? Let's see what we can do here. And just like literally it was so dusty on the other side, like just like 4-wheel sliding to the coping and just going like, hold on, man. I'm going faster than I've ever gone, right?
What is the skate scene in Regina? And you know what, even before this, just to go all the way back to the beginning, it's the first board you set foot on. Do you remember?
Board?
Yeah.
Well, it would have been ironically in the 70s. And I think the kids call them penny boards now, just those small boards.
Banana boards.
Board.
Yeah.
And we'd get somebody on a 10-speed bike with a tow rope. And we would, because Regina is the flattest place in the world.
Completely flat. It's the plains. It's the Great Plains. Is that right?
And then we started, the bigger boards started coming out. My first like real skateboard was like the Rob Roskop Santa Cruz Monster, right?
With the face ripping through the bottom of the board?
Yeah, it was the original face. It was a blue one. They came in various colors, whatever else. And that kind of set in motion for me like what has now become our company. Yeah. But it's like, it goes back to those very early days of like, we'd be, find scrap wood, maybe steal a little bit of wood, build ramps, build all kinds of ramps. They'd get torn down. It was just like, there was no hope, right? We were playing music at night. We were skating through the day. And then, you went through, great upbringing in Regina, great place to grow up. Went to university there, got a degree, and then came out here to UBC, started going to university.
So that's the trip in 88, right?
Yeah.
I've spoken about it lately with friends, how I labeled myself as bad, right? Like I was hanging with the bad guys. I was doing this bad shit. But the failure of our society is that at that time, our city planners were building tennis courts and, pirate ship playgrounds and things like that, not realizing like if they built just a simple cement bowl, right? Well, that takes up almost no space, you would be signaling to a group of kids like what you're doing is totally cool. Instead, we stole the wood off the signs of the billboards and built a janky wedge to quarter pipe in a field, you know what I mean? And felt like we were derelicts. Meanwhile, it got on the cover of the newspaper. Yeah. So the newspaper's going, hey, something exciting is happening, but it's a failure of the community to that. They didn't realize like, okay, these guys, instead of saying these guys and girls are crooks or criminals or derelicts, they said they're underserved and need, resources. Even if they would have given us the tennis courts on Tuesdays from 6 till 8.
Yeah, that's what we'd do, is pull up with a launch ramp on a couple of skateboards, wheeled into a tennis court and go nuts until you got kicked out, right?
It's epic, yeah. And
then if I think about, we're probably in the mid 80s to late 80s, now I get a snowboard, right? And that was kind of a trip because
out here? Were you out here?
That was still in Regina.
So before 88.
Yeah, so as I'm kind of getting through the end of high school, I think my first board I got in 85.
Wow.
And we'd make the big drive out to like Banff area. So you go to Norquay, you go to Nikiska.
Where'd you get the board from? Do you remember?
Some dude in a basement in Regina.
Yep.
And they eventually opened a skate shop. I think it was called like Off the Deck or something like that.
Cool.
And they went into a couple of different stores. They were legit for years, no longer there, but it was Barfoot.
Ooh, lucky.
And there was about 3 guys that I don't think I ever owned it, because there was like this collection of 3 Barfoot boards.
Yep.
And one of them had like the fin, like the
fin.
steel or whatever.
Yeah, because that's 85, 86.
Yeah, dude, it was early.
Yeah, really
and the
early.
funny thing is that the Barfoot that I rode, because I remember taking that when I went to UBC here, 93, 94.
Yep.
We had a cherry setup in Whistler. My roommate, his professor had a big shack in the creek, right?
Cool.
16 people, I think, could fit in there. And we got it like 2-3 times a month.
Oh, wow.
And I was riding that Barfoot at the time. And then I had gotten on to I saw you did Mike Olson, and there was a Canoe behind you.
Yep.
The black one with like the pink swirl kind of going through it.
Yeah, kinetic.
I had that one.
Wow.
That was a really stiff board, though.
They call it the ironing board. There's a couple boards they call the ironing board, and that's one of them.
Yeah, and then my homie...
It was like this thick in the middle.
Dude, it was so stiff. The bindings were so shit on that board.
Did they fold down, or were they just stuck?
But I had to... It broke the bindings. They would crack so much against Saskatchewan, whatever. I had to Frankenstein some bindings. And I wish I could go back in time, because I actually built a binding that had like a Sims high back.
Sick.
It had that base plate from the Canoe, and various bits and pieces. I was literally using like a rivet gun or whatever else, but I got it working. And then I got a Terry Kidwell Sims board, and I still have it to this day, the 167.5 or
the
whatever.
The black with the
yeah. And that was finally okay. That flexed a little bit. Yeah. And it was fast too, right? So
yeah. And at Whistler, that'd be the right board at that time.
Yeah, so I had that in my Barfoot at the same time.
You dodge a bullet, right? Because there's like a lot of, like that look Lamar with the weird, not useful shape, and there's a bunch of boards that just fall apart. But the Barfoot especially, but then also the Sims, 2 really great boards. And
well, and again, I didn't have a lot of cash back in those days. Great upbringing, went to university, and then 97 moved to Calgary, raised our kids there.
So 93 to 97, you're out here at UBC?
Kind of bouncing around between here and Saskatchewan, kind of working some odd jobs still in Saskatchewan. And then took the leap of faith with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife. It's actually our anniversary today, 27 years.
Wow, happy anniversary.
And it was 93 we met just before I moved to UBC, to go to UBC.
Yep.
So what's that? That's, that's over 30 years. That's 32 years.
Yeah. Holy smokes.
So, we're back in the, I love Vancouver. I was going to move here for good. And then, started a career, and that took me away from board sports. It took me away from skating and snowboarding.
Tends to happen, hey? Like you feel like
sucked.
You have to grow up or something. I did it right here in this neighborhood. I remember being shamed by my partner at the time, like, are you going to skateboard like a little kid, or are you going to grow up and have a real job? And it lit a fire under my ass that wouldn't be extinguished until I got my first divorce. Yeah. Then I was like, what do I do? I've lost myself.
Yeah.
And then I got back to the board sports, and it was like, why did I ever leave this? Like, what was the point of that?
Well, and it's funny because I there's a gap in my life from around 28, getting married. Now we're in Calgary, obviously start having kids. Mm-hmm. Everything was great in Calgary, 25 years there. But as I got close to 40, I'm like, I'm going to start skating again.
Cool.
And then obviously we were going to the mountains. I had the kids on snowboards since they were like 3 years old at COP. And
Calgary's got great mountains around it.
Yeah. And
Banff is incredible.
Incredible. And, if you go out there, always had friends, who lived in Banff, always had a place to crash. And, getting 8 to 10 days on the hills back then with young kids and whatever else, that's pretty decent.
That's a lot, yeah.
But the funny thing is now, like, I'm 56 now.
Yeah.
And I think I did 34 days on the hills this past year.
Yeah.
And people ask me, like, how many days do you wake surf? I'm like, I don't know, 150, 180. I live on the lake, right?
Yeah.
So every day it's like exercise to me. And I guess where I'm going is, so 40 years old, I start playing in a punk band again. I start skating again. I'm ramping up my snowboarding, and then wake surfing came along. And I was just like, this is it, because you can slam, you can fall, you can eat shit various ways. You don't necessarily ruin yourself though, right? Like if I went and skated a bowl, we've got a great skate park in Lake Country, BC, but the bowl's gnarly, the transitions are gnarly, and I'm just over it because the injuries, it's not the injury, it's the recovery, right?
And it's the real, like, the temptation to ride at that edge of your ability, which if you're like me, it's not that high. Like I'm not doing like crazy tricks, but in skateboarding, I can be broken off in an instant, and it can take like 6 months to heal. Yeah, it's pain.
And the thing about wake surfing now is that the trick progression is coming, and it's coming for guys my age. Like last year, I think I learned 4 new tricks.
Sick.
Like that old man, old dog new tricks kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, I'm going to keep going on this platform, because again, you've got surfboards and you've got skimboards, right? So you've got the 2 disciplines within wake surfing. Yeah. And we actually started this company based upon my daughter, who now is a pro wake surfer.
Sick.
And I'll talk a little bit about her, because she's one of the few that's actually making a living doing it.
Amazing.
But it took us creating a board company that has very good products, kind of designed from these riders, and kind of trying to be an elite, high performance product out there, where the history, part of the reason that I love your show so much is it's teaching me the history of snowboarding.
Right.
And it's filling the gap from like 28 to 40, because I didn't have time to pay attention, and the media wasn't that good back in the day, right? There was no internet or podcasts.
Right. And there wasn't a really good amount of looking back. I haven't said it for years, but in the beginning it was like, wow, were we ever just looking for the next cool thing, Yeah. So like, I didn't really know who Terry Kidwell was from anything other than that one Wine Rock image of him just like launching like in those early days. And I didn't even notice like what was special about that, like that his style was good, that the clothes he was wearing were on point, that the board he was riding was like a real board from the future, essentially, for what was going on back then. Yeah. But I remember Skirfers. So I remember Tony Finn and the fight over wakeboarding versus skirfing, which was like roto-molded floating boards. Yeah. And the real change in water skiing and wakeboarding came when boards went neutrally buoyant. Yes. So at that time it was knee boards. Yeah. So roto-molded, foam-filled, floaty knee boards. Yeah. Were like, we were standing up on those and then wrapping the strap around our foot to try and jump the wake. Totally. And then these kick-in windsurf binding, floaty, roto-molded O'Brien Shredder, I think, was the first board that I bought a board with my friend. We didn't have a boat. So we would just like go to friends' places with the board and be like, we'll buy gas. Totally. And
you can go behind a fishing boat on those things too. That's what we did.
Yeah, 20 foot, with a 20 horsepower motor.
Totally. Yeah. And it's kind of like the 10-speed bicycle in 1977 with a little penny board behind her, banana board, exactly. Right? It was so I've been looking at what is the history of wake surfing now, right? Because, we're deep in this as a sport. And you mentioned O'Brien, and like Herb O'Brien's name comes up quite a bit, right? Yeah. And I, from what I've kind of done some research on, because I love history and the studies and all that kind of stuff, the first thing that I was kind of like, I don't know if I was shocked, I don't know if I was impressed, I don't know, whatever, but homie went to jail, hey? Yes. For like smuggling coke.
In the water skis.
In the water skis,
which is incredible. Yeah. So what he was addicted to at that time wasn't actually cocaine. He had climbed up a mountain south of Seattle, and he could see Seattle from the top of the mountain. He climbed a tree actually on the top. I've seen the tree. And he said, I'm putting a lake right here, and I'm going to have world-class water ski competitions right here. And the lake is going to be engineered so that when the boat passes, the wake flattens out by the time you turn around these islands. Yeah. I've been to the lake.
It's Radar Lake or something insane. Like that.
It's called Radar Lake. Yeah. It was called Lake O'Brien.
Okay.
Then he went to jail.
Yeah. Okay.
Because building a lake costs a lot of money, more money than you can make selling water skis. And he was successful with O'Brien water skis.
Yeah.
They took his company from him when he went to jail. They took his lake, and he got it back through just being a schmoozy. I don't want to say schmoozy. He went back and he was kind of looking through the fence, and he's like, "My lake." And the guy who owned it came out and was like, "Hey, buddy, can I help you?" He said, "I made that lake."
Yeah.
Now, the guy he was talking to owned Radar Electric and had renamed the lake Radar Lake.
Oh, okay.
And that guy had gotten, no shit, no, this isn't hyperbole, Bill Gates had come, rang the bell, and given him a blank check and said, "I want your lake."
No.
Whatever you want, blank check.
Yeah.
Bill Gates. Like,
Yeah.
you know you could cash that
Yeah,
check.
totally.
And he'd said, "No, man, this is like paradise. This is perfect."
Yeah.
But when O'Brien told him the story of the lake, the old man said, "I will sell you the lake." And I know how much he sold it for, $200,000. That's it.
What year was that?
mid-90s.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like, it was worth millions.
Yeah.
And he sold him the lake for what he had, put a clause on there he couldn't sell the lake for 25 years, and couldn't use it to make a ton of money.
Yeah, yeah.
Just had to be personal.
Yeah.
And the owner of Radar Electric got to live there until he died.
Like
What a
dream world stuff.
Dream world. They
Yeah.
filmed Return of the Jedi scenes there.
No way.
So like those forest scenes where
No
they're
way.
going on those speeders,
Yeah.
some of them were filmed up there at that lake.
Well, it's so that's what I was kind of looking at, because wake surfing to me, it just appeared around 2007, 2008. Janky ass boats, the boards were shit. It was
Yeah.
kind of, and I'd already started ocean surfing because I had lived in California for a summer with my cousin in Del Mar.
When was that?
Just 1991, dude. I was like, kind of, the university thing was happening. You looked at 4 months off. I kind of worked for a couple of weeks, and then I just had this opportunity to go down there, and just the irony was, he said, "Bring your hockey equipment. I know you can play." And I'm like, I'm not bringing my hockey equipment to California. I had my skateboard, and he said, "Seriously, bring your hockey equipment. Every Monday night we go and play with the Los Angeles Kings. They're all like training and shit
Are you
like
serious?
that." So I'd go surfing, Del Mar Beach, Blacks Beach, just up and down.
What's Del Mar like? Is it like pretty gnarly, or is it like beach break? Is it like
It's pretty chill, actually.
you
Yeah.
could learn there?
It's not like trestles. It's not like some of those breaks up in the Encinitas area. It's nice and mellow. And I just started on a foam top, like 9 foot, just started to
Right.
get it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, shit, I'm a surfer, right? So I'd go pot a few goals with Ron Duguay and every Monday night, and eat my baked potato every night. Guys just broke as hell. But
Yeah.
I'd skate all day. I'd surf all day. I was kind of living that life.
Skating in the 90s in California, like 91 would have been sick.
Dude, I ran into Stan from Natural Selection.
Unbelievable.
What a great dude. He lives like in Carlsbad or something like that, or he lives in Encinitas or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And
that
I said,
community.
get this. I said, 1991, I'm at the YMCA, which had a half pipe, and there's Mike McGill.
Yeah.
There's Kevin Staub.
Oof.
There was a bunch of those guys, right? And I didn't even go up and talk to him because skateboarding was dead. Nobody skateboarded anymore except the hardcores,
It was
right?
a lull. It was small wheels. Was it quite small wheels? It was fat pants.
Yeah.
And it was,
yeah.
it definitely wasn't like T-bones and vert. It was like,
I was still rocking like older, like a shred sticks board at the time.
yep.
My equipment sucked, man. I didn't have money to pump into it or anything like that.
Right.
So it was like, but I was just stoked to be like in Southern California. I'm skating. I'm surfing as much as possible. And then that surf, like, so the skateboarding in the 70s, the snowboarding in the 80s, the surfing in the 90s.
Wow.
And then I get into the 2000s. My kids are 5-6 years old, and I go out for the first time in Kelowna behind a ski boat on a shitty board, and all of a sudden I'm wake surfing because I had tried the wakeboarding, and this is where that was the one sport I kind of skipped. Is just the equipment was bad. You needed the boat with the tower. You needed to be able to throw a considerable wake just to have fun.
Yeah.
And I was eating shit all the time because you're just going super fast, getting whipped out. And that's where, you know, I think about the Herb O'Brien with the water skis and then into the wakeboarding. And they had a few of those like strap-ons and all that kind of stuff too. Scott Byerly, you know, then of course everybody knew Parks Bonifay, and you could kind of follow that stuff. And they kind of went X Games, and they had the Sean Murray video game and all that shit. Yeah. But it kind of fizzled out, right? And
wakeboarding, you've nailed it. In my opinion, wakeboarding, first of all, you need a $500,000 boat or however much they are. They're expensive. Yeah. They're $100,000 boat or whatever with the tower. And now you got speakers. And you've got all these. It
used to be 100. Now it's 500.
$500,000.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a mental. Yeah. It's such a huge amount of money, and the divide is, you don't get very many Scott Byerlys because most people are fairly rich. It's just the way it is. They live on a lake and they have a wakeboard boat. That's one selector for the group of people that participate. It's going to be, you know, they're going to be a privileged group. Yeah. The second thing that most people don't realize is, like, when they're doing competition wakeboard competitions, what are they going? They're going like 24 or 28.
And by the time you get slingshotted out, you're 40 miles an hour plus, right?
So you're hitting a doubled up wake. Yeah. Sometimes at 40 miles an hour. Yeah. So those impacts, when you hit the water is no longer soft. No. And so they were trying throughout the 90s to engineer the boats. You know, so I just said, Herb O'Brien was trying to make it so that there was no wake. The wake was flat and there was no chop. Totally the opposite. And then they put all this weight in the back of the boat, and they're trying to throw these humongous wakes. Yeah. During a time in snowboarding where a park jump could be 100 feet, so everything's huge. Yeah. And at that point in wakeboarding, I break my leg, and I'm like, I'm not so certain that I love wrestling, getting into the bindings, which at the time didn't have any straps or buckles or zippers or anything. Yeah. And if I could wakeboard at, like, dude, I remember when wakesurfing first came out and they started talking the numbers, because we had perfect pass on the boat, which means your driver drives at exactly the right speed. And I think we were talking like 8 miles an hour.
That would have been in those, you know, those early 2000s, mid 2000s, and then now it's like 11 to 12 miles an hour.
So 12 was a sweet spot. Yeah, exactly. Right. 12 was a sweet spot, and if you had 2 boats and you curved around, you could make this humongous wave that everybody could
constantly
ride.
Turning into the rider.
And you're only going 12. Yeah. And now there's no bindings to get into. Chill. Yeah. So I broke my leg by having my foot in one binding, greasing up both bindings to get in. Back leg, back leg, the soap in the binding gets washed out because it's in the water. Yeah. Front leg, it didn't. Yeah. So my front leg pulled out, and my back leg stayed in the binding and snapped over the board. Yeah. So it's really difficult to get back and squeeze into these things, and then the boat's going 30 miles an hour, and you're just going, I don't feel safe. Honestly, I didn't feel safe.
Well, and that's why, like, we would always joke, you know, this is even just recently, about some of the competitions we go to, they also have the pro wakeboard circuit on the same event, right? Yeah. And
Water Ski Pro Tour, is that what it is?
That would be the Pro Wake Surf Tour, which is Supra, and then also the World Wake Association, which is generally it's Nautique, but it's all of those pro wakeboarders. And you know, you get to talk to those guys. It kind of reminds me of snowboarding in the early days. There's a little bit of factionalization. There's a little bit of you know, aggro, you know, to one another kind of thing.
Are they doing like double flips?
They're doing they're still, but they all got the double knee braces on. It's like, and it's like, you know, the thing that I've seen, you know, relative to skateboarding, you see like even the Olympic skateboarding and stuff like that, where they're doing street courses and park and stuff like that. They're not even wearing pads anymore. They're not even wearing helmets sometimes. They're that good.
That's
right?
wild.
And, you know, my day was like, you know, you had all the equipment on. And whether you needed it or not, it kind of was a look in the 80s. You had your chin strap.
Mike McGill, when I think of him, he's wearing a helmet, with the chin strap and the whole thing, and the pads, everything.
So now that I'm looking back at wake surfing, it definitely evolved out of, like, I've seen pictures from the 50s and 60s of some dude on a surfboard behind like a fishing boat, and like
it was always there.
It was there, but I think today now, like the equipment, like we like to think that we created Kanuk Board Co. because the boards that we were using out there, they just weren't good enough. And I think, and I don't want to be unfair to the Hyperlights of the world or the Ronixes of the world or Connolly or O'Brien, but they were water skiers first, then they were wakeboarders and the knee boards and all that kind of stuff. They never really took the discipline of wake surfing as its own sport. Right. And then again, in wake surfing, you've got the skimboards like Victoria and, Exile and those guys. Yeah. And so you could take our skimboard that you go behind the boat on, you could go out to any beach in the world, throw it on the sand and go out for a session that way too, right? Sick. And that was always fun, being in Maui or being in Mexico or wherever else. Like, that's where our kids...
Have you been to the Wedge in Mexico?
No, I haven't.
Is that where it is? I think it's in Mexico.
Are you talking like there's a Wedge in like Southern California too? Like
it might be.
I'm not sure. Do you know who Austin Keene is? Do you know Austin?
No.
So he's probably the most famous of all the wake surfers in the world. Okay. Kind of like 1 million followers online, that kind of thing. Really? Right? Yeah. He's
that big.
Well, and we actually just signed him as a rider.
Sick.
So congrats. And he's just the best dude ever, right? But he kind of
the guy with the dreads.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I saw him in one of your videos, and I was like, well, that guy's got good style.
Well, and you know how he kind of got famous was he was an ocean skimmer. Yeah. That obviously started to wake surf behind boats. And he did a run-in from the beach, threw his board down, and skimmed over to a boat wave that was coming by. And he went on like Ellen DeGeneres, and this would be probably 10 years ago. Sick. And then he came to our lake. Our local dealer brought in, kind of a ride with the Pro Series, and he was one of them. Sick. And he had some spare time, some downtime. So there's another video of him and I driving around Lake Country, BC, going to wineries and wake surfing in my 66 Mustang convertible. And we just knew each other, right? So this is a guy who's kind of monetized his position in wake surfing. Nobody comes close in terms of his followership and like just his circle of influence.
Kind of like the Billy Bryan, like the Beaker of skimboarding. Yeah, well, like he for a long time he was kind of a world champ every year. Yeah, and pretty much untouchable. And then people started to catch up and do stuff.
Yeah, I think Austin won the world championship once. He kind of said it was hard to do. There was like an 8-stop tour circuit. And he got it done, and then he's doing his thing now, where we do a competition every year in Japan.
I saw that. So that's dope.
He comes. It's like Japan. The beautiful thing about where wake surfing's gone from just kind of doing it to finally getting a boat. My daughter starts to develop skills. She's an amateur rider when we start building these boards here, like just hand shaping them, doing all kinds of crazy things to get more performance engineered into the product. And she just won the Masters World Championship 2 years in a row. Sick. We've traveled to 16 countries in the last 2 years to wake surf.
That's incredible.
And she even won, so she won the championship last year. One of our other pro riders, Tyler Stewart, also won the championship. We didn't know this, but they got all their money, and then we got to go to Kelly Slater's Surf Ranch as the prize.
Come on.
So the athletes got to go, and they got to bring one person with them. Of course, my daughter's going to bring myself.
Sick.
And we got to do that wave at Kelly Slater's Ranch in California.
So I understand that Kelly's Ranch, he can dial in some ballasts under the water to create a wave that's like pretty much perfect.
Well, I looked at it too, because I'm like, it's just a big winch with this big kind of hydrofoil blade. And what happens is that I think they've got 5 or 6 settings before it gets to the CT4 or the Pro, because they have WSL events there, right? Right. The WSL now owns it. They bought it from Kelly and his investors.
That makes sense.
And they just basically play with the speed, right? So when they speed it up, it kind of, the wave goes about 20 miles an hour, maybe 22, 23. and it does, does certain things to the wave. And then when they slow it down, it's kind of like the difference between wake surfing at 8 or wake surfing at 12. It's just all speed based.
Right.
Yeah. It's the equipment's right there.
So fun.
Yeah.
So you're making me realize, so in each of our subgenre industries, there's usually someone who takes it very, very seriously, right? The first longboard company was Sector 9.
Yeah.
And they were taking it seriously because it was making them money. You know what I mean? A lot of them weren't passionate about going down hills on longboards. They were just like, okay, this is a niche section of the market that we can get into.
Yeah.
It sounds like this is more of a perfect meeting of, you liked the wake surfing thing and you saw that there was like, the rest of the industry is putting out a wake surfboard or 2 wake surfboards as a kind of course, we support wake surfing, but really they're focusing on their 30 models of wakeboards and 12 water skis.
And the vests and the ropes and all the ancillary products, which they probably make great margins off of.
Right.
But you're right. I looked at this and I said, well, if we're going to do this, like this was just sort of a hobby business. And then because of the traveling, because of the competition circuit, we started to see people out of Asia, people out of the Middle East, people out of Europe, people out of South America, like, yeah, we want to try your boards. We like your boards better than anything else.
Sick.
And I've always said we're like a craft beer. We're not Budweiser. We're not building the most boards, but we've kind of got a good thing going here. And then because I'm, I've been doing skating and snowboarding for so long, I'm kind of like, well, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it like in the spirit of Jake Burton. We're going to do it in the spirit of Stacy Peralta. And a lot of people have asked, because we've got a really good competitive team, like multiple time world champions, real kind of like goats in the sport, because it wasn't really a sport in, say, 2008 or even in 2015, where you were able to do some of the big tricks that they're doing now. Like the guys are doing 720 big spins, 540 shove-its on surfboards, front big spins, like they're spinning both ways, their body varieling both ways. Like there's a considerable amount of like trick progression that's happened really just in the last 5 years.
Yeah, and the airs are getting huge
the
airs.
Style
is really good.
Yeah, and it's
cool.
And it's both on surf and skim, which is great, because the two disciplines, they're kind of the same, but they're kind of different. And so what we've tried to do is
explain that, because surf, you explain it. I think that it's probably fins and board thickness and lengths, right?
It's really just a mini ocean surfboard.
Right.
And we've experimented with various thicknesses. On our wake surfboards, we actually do a double concave. So we have concave on the top of the board, kind of like a skateboard. Yeah. And we've got concave on the bottom, which is for water channeling. And we've, on one of our boards, the Burnsy Pro, which we developed with now 5-time world champion Connor Burns, like, I think we're on version 37 or something like that of, of like messing around with the CNC file to cut the foam and then hand shaping it certain ways. We tried 2 fin boxes. We tried 4 fin boxes. We tried 5 fin boxes. We tried a thruster 3-fin setup. We just used 2 fin boxes. We have straightened those fin boxes because a lot of those advanced riders and even dudes like myself, you can ride it switch revert. You can do like a frontside 180. And you could sit there in the pocket, fins facing the boat now, fins out of the water, really. Yeah. And so, okay, that's unique. Then our rail construction, really hard rails, really sharp rails. So it's a unique board that a lot of the board companies historically have not done that level of R&D on. Of
course, right.
And we're just doing it like in a garage. And then all of a sudden things like, and COVID helped big time, because we went from having, moderate sales. Maybe we'll just build a couple hundred of these things a year for elite riders. And then all of a sudden now we got to get into manufacturing. Now we got to get into supply chain management. Now we got to get into international logistics. We just shipped a board to our 52nd country.
Oh, wow.
52 countries, right?
Wow, man. Congrats. That's sick.
It's been awesome, man. And it's been like a passion project. So, you know, when I go back now, thanks to shows like yourself and, you know, a few of the skate, you know, podcasts, and they're just history shows to me, right? It's like, we've got a history channel now.
The 9 channel, or the 9 Club is great.
So awesome,
I love
man.
it.
Yeah. And just seeing, okay, you know, then you can look at a factory tour of Peralta or Paul Schmidt's factory in Tijuana. Then you can start looking at, you know, in the surf world. And this is a big misnomer because, you know, companies like Victoria, they were born, like, they're right there in Laguna Beach. They're right on the ocean. And they really focused on that ocean sport, right?
100%.
And it's the same for some of the, you know, for instance, John Pizell doesn't make a wake surfboard. There's a completely different construction methodology that you have to go through to build a board that's between 4 and 5 feet, not between 5 and 7 feet or greater. And it takes time to like dial in like what changed between version 33 and 37 for us, right? So we've kind of got a little bit of secret sauce now. But the ocean guys who do ocean shaping, so our surfboards are made out of EPS foam. We use the various the fiberglass cloths you can use. So
that's a neutrally buoyant foam, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's got some eco, like, properties to it, which we like. We want to stay on that.
Yeah.
Well,
in nature, you don't want to be contributing to the destruction of nature, right?
Of course. And it's like, you know, we're very mindful of waste and what we do with byproducts. But you know what? We when we talk to ocean guys, you can talk the same language, but our finishing and our sanding and all that kind of stuff, fin box placement and just general like makeup of the surfboards, they're completely different from an ocean board.
They have to be.
And the big irony is, like, I was in Huntington Beach. We've got some suppliers down in California. We build some boards down in California as well. And you know, you walk into a shop in Surf City, Huntington Beach, and you see a 10-foot board. It's, you know, 6 inches thick. It's got 4 different colors and pinstripes and glosses, and it's just a beautiful looking board, right? And it's $700 US. And our boards are 12.
Yeah.
It's half the size, it's a quarter the volume. And it's like, well, where did this come from? It came from the fact that the boats cost so much, and it's a new sport, and there's relatively few high-end players. Like, we try to be a high-end player, and it comes back to the team, comes back to performance. And it's kind of like, you know, when I first started riding snowboards, that, you know, we're into the 90s, all of a sudden it's like you could ride a snowboard one time and you're like, yes,
that's it,
right?
That's the truth.
I got to go up to Sun Peaks in January. I got to go to that dealer demo day up there that they throw. Really good friends of ours are one board shop in Kelowna.
Those guys are awesome.
Those guys rule. And I can't say enough about how valuable they've been to us, because we've got signage outside. They are a traditional old school skate and snow shop. They don't do the skis. They don't do various other things, but they do wake surf. Obviously, it's a big lake town, Kelowna, big vacation town.
Huge.
So got to go up with them, and I went and rode various snowboards throughout the day, and I was frankly shocked. I was shocked at some of the ones that I thought were going to be good that weren't.
Right, sure.
And I was shocked at some of the, like, obviously there's new step-on, step-in bindings, all that tech that's coming, right? And I was just, you know, it was a great couple of days for me, because we do that stuff in wake surfing, and thankfully we've been able to do it all around the world, because in other parts of the world, they don't have a lake where there's a dock and there's a boat lift and there's a boat sitting on that. That is a North American thing only.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Part of the reason, costs a lot of money to get that boat over there.
Totally.
And it costs way too much money in petroleum. Like, they don't even use gas, they use diesel in most of those countries, right?
Oh, right.
So what you'll see is there's a variety of surf schools all around the world. And dude, we've been to, you know, Japan, Hong Kong, China, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Dubai, all parts of Europe, obviously all throughout, like a little bit of Mexico as well too. And that's where I say we've been able to travel over the last 2 years, kind of on this like trade mission of, we're going to all these various countries. We're going to pack 4 board bags full of 10 boards each. So we're going to take 40 boards with us. And by the time you get, a couple of trips down the way, you're just leaving the bag behind and just saying, okay, those boards are, they end up buying the boards. They become like a dealer almost. Distributor. Yeah, and it's just kind of, it's truly like, I don't know if you remember this from like the 70s or 80s. It's like, the guy would ring your doorbell and he'd have like Encyclopedia Britannica.
Or the vacuums. We had a vacuum from that.
So it's like totally
12 easy payments of $40 or whatever. Yeah. That's cool. I want to go back to Stacy Peralta and Jake Burton, because this is okay. So how do I get in this? Essentially, board sports started at the same time. We think of them as like surfing is this old model, the dad or whatever, or the grandfather, but it's not. They're like brothers.
Yeah.
Surfing started, people got into surfing at a level where it became an obsession and a lifestyle. Skateboarding started about that same time, and snowboarding started right around that same time.
Yeah.
Wakeboarding was quite a bit later, because it wasn't until the 90s that the first neutrally buoyant board started, and then wake surfing proper, it needed the boat. Yeah. And the boat didn't get designed and dialed in until, 2000s, probably mid 2000s.
Yeah. I'd even say around 2015 is when the first modern wake surf boats started to throw a legit wake surf
boat. Yeah. Right, because that didn't even exist before. Like I said, you'd take 2 wakeboarding boats and you'd make this legendary wave.
Yeah.
And there were only a handful of people that would look at that and go, I think we could make a boat that would make that wave.
Well, and that's why it's interesting to us these days, because like I said, there's a couple of competitions we'll go to where the pro wakeboarders are there with the pro wake surfers. But if you talk to any boat manufacturer, boat dealer in the world, wake surfing is what sells, right? The water skiing doesn't sell anymore.
Rad.
Wakeboarding doesn't sell anymore.
Right.
And I think it's because of a couple of things. It's not super gnarly when you wipe out.
It's not super gnarly.
You can get kids doing it.
Everybody can do it with a rope. Everybody can.
Like even just using, like, we've got a little foam top kids board.
Yeah.
And just use it as a knee board now,
it's
right?
so fun.
And you just
you're
literally
right there. It's like they used to have this arm that they had a teaching arm. I forget what it was called, but guys would use it for barefooting. And it was you would have, the benefit is you have the guy in the boat can talk directly to you while you're doing it, instead of being way out 100 feet on a long line or 75 feet. So wake surfing happens right at the back of the boat.
Yeah.
And the boat isn't like at some like insane speed. So you can actually, hand a beer to your buddy, or you can talk with your kid and go, okay, try dragging a hand to slow back, or try standing up.
Well, that's why I say we've got a few of our wake schools that they focus on the kids.
Yep.
And I keep saying, like, there's all these gnarly tricks you can do on a wake surfboard these days.
Yeah.
The best trick is dropping the rope.
It is.
And just surfing behind a boat.
Absolutely.
And because they're starting to build the boats with everybody in the boat is watching the surfer.
Yep.
So all the seating is orientated to the surfer and that experience. The stereos are just killer these days, dude.
Incredible, dude.
And it's like you can do it, and it doesn't take a lot of fuel. That's another kind of an interesting thing about it. We even have one of our riders is playing around with an electric boat right now as well too.
Did he get one of those ones from Scandinavia, or is there other companies that are doing
There's a company in Los Angeles called Arc. And I did a quick little research into them. They've raised about $100 million.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of like Tesla, SpaceX guys working for them now.
Cool.
They've got this big campus in that sort of Long Beach area where they can do product testing. And then they're, similar to Tesla's take to market, they're not really having dealers. They're going direct to consumer. So these boats are coming. This company Arc is very interesting to me. I'd like to see if we can do like a competition.
Look up Conrad Bergstrom as well, because he's a dude from Sweden who has been instrumental in the implementation of snowboarding and big events and all that stuff. And he's got a boat company that I think is the biggest electric boat company in the world right now.
I think I've heard of it too. Yeah. So I'm just starting to do that level of research.
Those guys are cool too.
And where I think it's going to be honest is I think that again, Western Canada here, Okanagan Valley, everybody's got their own boat, right?
Sure.
But around the world, you're going to start to see, I think, bigger boats, but ones that use diesel engines, ones that are electric. And then that's just on the boat style of wake surfing. Now the surf pools are coming, right?
Right.
And I think like there's one down in Chelan that's about 4 hours from us in Kelowna. Been there. There's a new one in Phoenix, Arizona. We've got a lot of riders in Phoenix, so I was able to go to that before it opened. And there's a stationary wave, and then there's a moving wave, like Kelly Slater's wave, right? So we're actually already building boards for the wave pools as well.
Wow, that's amazing. So getting to this Stacy Peralta, Jake Burton thing, the thing that's really important, and the thing that I want to say, is that through 30 years or 40 years of being involved in board sports, I think skateboarding had the most authentic industry build up around it. Whereas snowboarding, because of the cost of manufacturing and the technology, they were beholden to the ski industry before they even hit the ground. And I think what made Jake Burton and Stacy Peralta stand out is that they were lifelong addicted to the thing. And so someone like Jamie Salter, for example, who's been very successful he started Ride Snowboards. He's got a $8 billion company right now that works in trademarks, that has Volcom and Quicksilver and all sorts of Billabong and things that you would recognize as authentic. It's funny that once they get to Jamie Salter, they're the least authentic that they're going to be, because he sees the world through dollar signs, in my opinion. Like, he knows how to make money. And even Stacy Peralta and Jake Burton, Jake better than Stacy maybe in making money. Powell, I think, did most of the heavy lifting
I agree.
On the financial side of things. But it's so important to have somebody authentic at the helm in order to actually generate something that's real, right? Because if you were sitting here and didn't have the love for wake surfing, if you were telling me this could make a lot of money, and that's the spark behind what was going on, you're missing the like 90-10 component, right? 90% of it, in my opinion, needs to be that authentic love for it. And I mean, you've got all the hallmarks of that. You're bringing up the younger generation. You're supporting the top pros, which means you understand that the innovation's still happening, right? Once the innovation's over, then some large-scale manufacturer can steal the tech. Where, like when skateboards got to popsicle sticks and everybody had the same shape, all of a sudden there were Chinese manufacturers of skateboards that you could get a board for $5 and slap a logo on it, right? So you're in this really exciting stage right now where it's a relatively, as far as I can tell, untapped market. And if you're a water ski company, you're kind of looking at it going, yeah, we got a couple of those.
Well,
but if you're then you're seeing like, look at all the technology that's coming out that's actually, you want like a dialed in board for. These wave pools, better boats, that's important.
Well, and there's a big debate in wake surfing too around where your boards are produced.
Sure.
So as we started growing as a company, and especially as that spike in consumer product and sporting goods happened with the pandemic, 2020, 2021, I'm like, I can't build boards fast enough.
Wow.
So you know what I did is I took a chapter out of Jake Burton's playbook, and we basically run our operation exactly how Burton does, where we've got our Canadian flagship. It's in Kelowna rather than Vermont, right? So we got our flagship. We do all of our R&D there.
Cool.
Canada actually, as a country, has some really good federal programs for doing research and development. And and it's sick because you don't want to be just giving your money away in taxes. The government really helps you with that in Canada. That's a big unknown.
So is the help through tax breaks as opposed to like programs where they're giving you money?
Yeah, it's a research and development tax credit that we apply for. A huge process. You're audited every 2 years. Like it's legit. It's government. So that helps us because Burton, I think at one point in time they had other factories in China. I think they had factory in Austria,
Taiwan,
Taiwan, and then Poland. And I know Poland because we actually work with those guys now.
Oh, sick.
On our skim boards. The skim construction entirely different from the surf construction. We're using a closed cell foam. We have to actually source that in North America from a Seattle company because Boeing's right there. It's aero grade, right?
Yep.
So we have a very specific foam, very expensive. It doesn't take on water. You can submerge it for a week and there's no water intake to it. It also holds some really good core rigidity, and then we 2 layers of carbon fiber and various other fiberglass cloths.
So they're light and
they're super light, and we've obviously focused heavy on the graphics, right? Because when I first started wake surfing, you could buy a board in any color as long as it was white.
Right.
There was no imagination. And the water ski wakeboard guys, they kind of knew with sublimation printing and sort of how you do snowboards, they could kind of get some graphics in there. But we actually work with some cool artists out there. I know you're friends with Mark Kowalchuk.
Of course.
Mark's done 4 board designs for us.
That's a Mark that I'm looking at right there.
No, this one here's a Tim Barron. Tim is he lives in Indiana, and he's done Tony Hawk's last couple of boards for Birdhouse.
That's so sick.
He's done a lot of that Hawk versus Wolf podcast stuff. He does, some of my, Steve Cavallero, Alan Losi, all those guys.
Wow.
Just a rad dude to work for. We've got 2 new designs coming for 2026 with him. The other thing I've learned from Burton is you got to be years ahead on your design, your cataloging. I listened to your interview with Mark Sollers, which is a Kelowna guy.
Yeah, totally.
Rad dude, right?
Yeah, didn't he say they're working 3-4 years in advance?
Totally. You got to be, right? And that's where we've got probably in the neighborhood of 7-8 graphic designers working on projects for us at any time. My son actually has done a lot of that work as well. He's really talented. He designed all of our new traction pads for 2025, and he hand drew the design that gets pressed into foam, and that's a whole process.
Yeah, traction's a whole other thing.
Yeah, traction and fins, dude, are that's another thing where it's we've got a fin technology right now where it's a definite secret sauce. We're not letting that one out, but we make those. We've got the molds. We've got really good fin technology.
So it's not a classic FCS thing. It's your own proprietary.
Yeah, we use the Futures base just because we want to be able to worldwide let people mix and match.
So tell me what the Futures base is, just for people that don't know.
Yeah, so it's just a casting that you would slot a fin into. And there's really 2 predominant ones in surfing. There's the Futures ones, which is sort of long and kind of like a rectangle. And then there's the FCS, which is a little bit more clicky and just a couple of points of connection there. There were companies in wake surfing going back about 10 years. They designed their own fins and fin boxes, proprietary. Not the way to go, because the minute those go out of stock and I've broken a fin, it's you're screwed, right?
You're talking about the binding dilemma of the early 90s with snowboarding. Yeah, you need some sort of industry standard.
Yeah,
they talked about that in the early 90s for snowboarding. So
but you'll maybe laugh at this because we get criticized because of how we've gone about our manufacturing. So we've got the Canadian flagship. We've got our own CNC machine in Washington State with a master shaper there. A lot of our customized work and our prototyping is done there. We've got 2 surf shops in Southern California, Costa Mesa and Huntington Beach. We've got a one-man shop in Japan, Candy Nusa, doing customized boards for that market.
This sounds like a mini snowboard industry, all in one company.
And then we've got the 2 factories in China and the 1 factory in Poland that's doing some of our carbon fiber work. You can't build a company anymore where it's just a bunch of workers in a single location. It just in sporting goods, it doesn't work. We're not using pressed molds, heat molds to the extent where we're just printing money essentially. That's not our jam. Everything's touched by hands. Everything's hand laid up, hand sanded. It's a very laborious process, not unlike going to John Peisel's shop in Oahu, right? It's still got that core to it. Cool. And then you also are smart enough to know, if you look at Authentic Brands and all of those core brands that they've bought through Salter, the same things happen. So if you look at Connolly, O'Brien, Hyperlite, Liquid Force, and I'm probably forgetting a few. Arbor Snowboards.
Ronix, yeah, right.
They're not Ronix. Ronix, I think, is still owned by the family. But
wow.
There's a private equity firm called Seawall Capital. They own all those brands. Arbor Snowboards is in there. Kona Bikes was in there, but they sold it off, kind of thing.
Damn.
So they did that consolidation that we've seen in snowboarding. You know,
the
one I talked to just last year, just ran into Xavier Nydecker, right? One of the kids of the Nydecker family.
Yep.
They're doing some interesting things in snowboarding. They own a ton of brands. They family business, 100 plus years. You know, they obviously have the cash, right? Because you need to have economies of scale in your supply chain and your manufacturing. So if somebody came to me next year, I hope they do, and they say we need to order 10 times the amount of boards.
Yeah,
I can scale my business is scaled
you need
for
that war chest. That's
totally
what they call it, like a war
and
chest.
And we kind of finance it ourselves as well.
Yep.
But I listened to your interview with Donna Carpenter, and even Burton runs low on funds every once in a while because somewhere along the line the retailers invented payment terms where the manufacturer, you get to cover them for about 9 months, right?
Yeah, it's nuts. It's kind of nuts.
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the early 90s. In snowboarding, everyone talked about the Japanese financing every company, really, because they were paying up front for board orders.
Yeah.
And otherwise, you don't have enough money to keep the whole thing going. This is interesting to me because it's a microcosm of several different industries, right? Surfing, skateboarding, snowboarding. Wakeboarding always felt like a bit of an outside thing because it was kind of a manufactured, everything else is gravity based, right? And then when you've got like a different power source where you can, if you've got a flat lake, you can make the same wake every time. And it had its own language, and they were making up their own names for grabs that already existed, it felt like. So that was a little corny. But then the air railie, which is their own thing that doesn't exist anywhere else because of the physics of being pulled by a boat, they had their own stuff that they were making up. Wake surfing busted into that space because in skateboarding and in snowboarding at that time, there was an influx of fun that we'd gone all the way with the like best of the world distilled into these videos, and we were starting to get the internet where it was a little bit more free, and wake surfing was born out of, like I can still remember when like wake surfing felt like the ginger of sushi. Like you're just taking a palate cleanse. You know what I mean? Everybody's like trying to do these flips and go at this speed and blah, blah, blah. And someone wants to just go for like a fun thing. Let's just take a minute and just do something fun here.
Totally.
And I was like, oh, I like that. I don't need to do any of the other stuff ever again. This is it.
Well, and then you start to get bigger waves. You start to get better board technology. Dude, these kids these days are like inventing tricks, and really, I would liken the skimboarding to more like skating. A lot, especially like street league type skating. A lot of, there's lots of shove-its, lots of body varial, big spin rotations, and then the kick flips start to come in. There's some kick flipping going on now. Surfing's a little bit more like snowboarding, where you're concentrating on amplitudes and various grabs, and you're doing frontside and backside maneuvers, and it's basically like, especially for a guy of my vintage, I just gave a lesson the other day to a couple who are in their 60s.
Sick.
And dude, they're shredding. Like they're out there and they're just carving, and they're just basically like, if I went out to any break in the world and got to ride for 2 or 3 minutes solid. Fuck, dude, I would just be like, that's exactly what wake surfing brought to me. And then you get the health benefit of that. It's core, it's cardio, it's everything. It's zen, right? It's all those things. But then, you look at it and then they're like, I want to do a 360. I want to do a front one. I want to do a back alley oop 720 out. Like,
right.
So you start to be able to do some fun tricks, some combo tricks. And like, for me, it's like, like I was saying to you, I'm still learning new tricks in the sport. I'm old, right? So as long as I can keep learning tricks, I'm just stoked, because it reminds me of being 16-year-olds and skating.
That's fun. And
being like, damn, I'm getting better at this, or at least I'm having fun.
Right. And when you step off your board, you're in water. It's just that much nicer. Yeah. Like it's like a pillow, as opposed to like you step off your board on concrete.
Oh yeah.
Or if you hook an edge, or just sometimes on a snowboard you're just trying to slow down and stop. And you sit down for a second, you're like, oh, no, that's not good.
There's also a cool day in April in the Okanagan where it's probably one of the last days at Silver Star or Big White. Go up for a shred in the morning. Yeah. Go wake surfing around noon, and then go golf 18 holes.
Yeah, see, that's nuts.
Dude, I'm 56, and I'm doing this with guys in their 20s.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a fountain of youth. I've got various, like, we're in the middle of the wake surf season right now. My hips are bothering me. My knees are bothering me. That's just me being old, man. But it's also like, I like hucking, and, if you're not eating shit, you're not trying, really, right? And it's the same with snowboarding. I still love snowboarding. I love it so much. I actually love snowboarding more now than I did, right?
I feel like I fall in love with it every year in a season, just like, oh man, it's back. I'm so happy when it's back.
I can see that out of you, man. I can see your passion.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
So the wake surfing thing, has it become your full-time job now, or are you still?
Has.
It's unbelievable.
In a weird,
congratulations,
Jake Burton, Stacy Peralta way. Mm-hmm. Like, these are my heroes. I think that we are getting lucky in the sense that it's a growing sport. I feel lucky to have been born in 1969, and I really got to see sidewalk surfing become really good skating. I got to see snowboarding. Dude, I still have my pass from Sunshine Village where I needed a license to snowboard at Sunshine. Yeah. Then I got to see, obviously wakeboarding, but I didn't really wakeboard. And then the surfing is a brand new sport. I would say that wake surfing is snowboarding in 1994. Yeah. That's where I would peg it right now.
Right. Because you're still developing board tack.
Yeah.
You're still, you have very influential pros that are like shaping the way that the sport is going to look and is going to be done forever. Yeah. Right. These are the first guys to do these tricks. These are the first guys.
And we're
put their life on the line for this thing.
Well, and we're on about generation 3 of the pro riders, right?
Yeah.
Like the first generation pro riders, they'd probably be able to do a 360 and maybe a shove it.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Shove in, shove out. That's it. That you're winning the world championship, right?
Right.
Then there's sort of a mid-tier, guys who are probably now getting close to 30 years old.
Yep.
And then, you've got the new generation coming where there's literally like 12 and 13-year-olds, just like snowboarding, just like skate. These 12 and 13-year-olds are throwing bigger tricks than anybody ever has, and they're inventing tricks.
Cool.
It's just off the charts, right? So,
and you're getting support from like the wakeboard boat companies, like the big companies, recognizing like, oh, this is a universal sport where wakeboarding when you're a beginner, it's not that fun. You're going too fast. You're holding onto the rope. Somebody's yelling at you from really far away. And when you're getting pulled up out of the water, it can be traumatizing.
Tough learning curve. And I tried some of those cable parks too along the way. I don't know if you've ever tried those.
I haven't been to a cable park, but I've seen them and they seem like, oh my God.
Like to me, and I don't want to be unfair to the wakeboarders. I really don't, but I just rather go snowboarding.
And we haven't talked about wake skating because there was there was a transition period there. Yeah. Like before wake surfing came out, all I did was wake skate because I was afraid of the bindings.
Totally.
And it forced the boat to be a little bit slower. I liked that the boat was slower.
And you could do it on a Sea-Doo.
You could do it on a Sea-Doo. You could do it anywhere. Yeah. You didn't need this huge wake. Yeah. And it was very challenging. Yeah. It was really hard to do when I would wake skate in shoes and it had grip tape. Like it was insane. And then when wake surfing came out, the board's bigger. It made more sense. And now you're dropping even slower. I was like, I love this. This is exactly what this is about.
You nailed it. And it's like, now if it, like I said, if it was just that for the carving or, instead of being towed, like this is the big misnomer when people are starting to wake surf. The rope just acts as an initial get you out of the water.
Totally.
You're not being towed by the boat. The wave is pushing you.
Yeah.
And when you watch the good pros and you start to see exactly how you do a trick and your recovery is to sort of almost do a little like a ollie over to the wave again.
Yeah.
And then that gives you forward momentum. You do another trick. And when you see the really, really elite pros doing their tricks, you can start to see exactly how they've learned to maximize the efficiency of the wave push.
Yeah.
And they know they go up, they generate forward momentum. If they have a trick that needs super speed, they might pump once or twice into that, or they just do it and boom, they do it, they land the trick, and then they're back in the pocket. And what this promotes is like, we used to measure our wake surfing by like, how many songs can I wake surf for, right? You know,
Totally.
you put your playlist out there.
Yeah, it used to be how long can you stay? How far back can you get and then pump back to the boat?
Exactly.
Right.
And the funnest thing for me, frankly, was when we got the surfboard technology, the fin size correct, the rail construction correct. I just like going out and boosting airs, man.
Yeah, like looks insane.
And you know, you're doing some front side airs now. You're doing some backside airs. It's basically like side hits on a snowboard hill, right?
So
like
sick.
It's and again with less consequence. You know, if you eat it I remember I was out snowboarding with my son and his friend, and I was like doing some side hits with them. I'm like, I'm getting good again. And then I go up to like do a indie grab or something like that, and I get over my handlebars and I rack my shoulder up, and I'm done for a few months, right?
Yeah,
like it just sucked.
Months, exactly.
But you do that on a wake surf wave. You know, you might take a little bit of nose up, water up the nose, but you know that kind of cleans you out too, right? And the other cool thing is we've been able to do it in salt water as well as fresh water. You know, you go around the world, especially like Asia. One of the cherry places that we've been to is Turks and Caicos, kind of in that Caribbean blue water. And
Beautiful.
There's like a dolphin that comes every once in a while, and there's a ship that's wrecked. And yeah, so shout out to my homie Mark down there with Wake to Wake Turks and Caicos. And you know, that's a big, like, they take the Kardashians out, Drake's out in that neck of the woods.
Come on.
And that's what we're getting a lot of people. You know, Austin Keene's been great for it. He has something on YouTube called Celebrity Surf Series. He just went out with some UFC fighter. He's been out with Tony Hawk before. He's been out with Steve-O before. He's been out with Wee Man. He's just like, and this is, people want to see how you get into that sport. And Austin's done a great job of just, you know, creating an environment that it's, everything with him is just fun, right? Whereas you look at some of our riders, you know, you've got your Connor Burns, your Tyler Stewart, your Lily Anderson, your Cassidy Gales. These are elite multi-time world champion riders.
Yeah.
And they're young, and they've got tons of they got tons of tricks to throw and blow your mind with, but they're still evolving into what is it like to be a pro athlete and to be, maybe you're an introvert, maybe you're an extrovert, maybe you're somewhere in the middle. It's really interesting to see these people grow, because I've known them all since they were like 13
kids. Right. Yeah. So how old is your daughter now?
She's just turned 24.
Wow. So she's still a kid too. That's my kids are 21 and 25.
Yeah.
So
same age. My son's 20. He'll be 22 here right away.
You gotta be excited when the kids catch the bug, you know, and they like to do the thing. That's
well,
awesome.
And my son's a good example. So he'll be 22. He's going to UVic, so he lives out on the island. He'll be in 4th year this year, but he was a surfer, and he, like juniors, he was 3rd in the world. Amateur, he was 3rd in the world. He was sort of progressing himself.
Like a wake surfer?
Wake surfing. Yeah, because they have all the divisions, right? It's pro, and then you'd have, like, I've even competed. I won the Masters last year, for instance, down in the U.S. Yeah, so I kind of say I come out of retirement every now and then. It's not. I used to compete all the time and take it very seriously, but I've got the team now. And the interesting thing about my son is that he was on the surfboard, and then just like 2-3 years ago, he's like, screw it. He started on the skimboard, which is like an entirely different discipline.
Yeah, totally different.
And now he's doing tricks on that. And he and our lead shaper, Joey Prophet, we go out and shred every day after work, maybe before work, maybe twice. And these are the funnest guys they're just in it for the fun.
Yeah.
And so we have this elite team where everybody's training. Now's a big time of the year. Everybody's getting ready for those last few competitions. But you go with Matt's, my son, and Joey, our lead shaper. And, dude, it's just like, it's the best way to spend a summer afternoon or evening.
Yeah, it's really intimate with the boat and the thing. It invites help, you know, like, you got pretty close that time, you know. Like, and everybody looking at you.
Yeah.
You know, there's something really, really special about just being on a boat on the water.
Well, and there's used to be competitions too where you'd show up and, you know, you're in the water, you're ready to get pulled up by the boat, and they'd say, "What song do you want to hear?" Nice. And I'm like, we need more of that shit,
yeah,
right?
That's super sick.
And, you know, the other thing too that, you know, it's interesting to have watched what you've done relative to the history of snowboarding, and then to see how competitions have evolved over the years, right?
Yeah.
I think we obviously got into competitive wake surfing about 10 years ago. My wife did it as well. She finished second in the world one year in the masters category.
That's epic.
Yeah. So the whole family, like there was a couple of competitions we'd go to where we'd all podium, and there was, I think, one or two where we all got first in the competition. It was fucking awesome, man.
It's really
and
congrats,
real family
That's
thing.
super sick.
And then, but you see what's happening in competitive wake surfing right now is very similar to, you know, the snow ski downhill and the snowboarders, right? Like a lot of the worldwide associations are called, for instance, there's one called the IWWF, which is the International Water Ski and Wakeboard. There's one in Canada called the Canadian Wake Canada or Water Ski Wakeboard Canada.
Right.
And then there's one called the World Wakeboard Association. So I'm kind of like looking at this going, we're getting fist here, right?
You're getting fist.
We're getting fist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because you can't govern yourself because, or you could do it and do what skateboarding did and just said, look, we're just an independent thing. But you need the owners of the companies to be strong in that sense. And now if those owners of those companies also own wakeboard and water ski manufacturing, then they're going to go with one of these fist type things.
It's easy, right? And I've said to the athletes long ago, like, you guys should do your own thing. Mm-hmm. And we actually have done our own thing as Kanuk. We, 2 years ago, we've got a great partner in Japan and a great partner in Hong Kong. And we wanted to grow the market in those Asian countries. And so we did a 4-stop Asian series, and we financed it. First stop was Japan, second stop was Thailand, third stop was Taiwan, and the finals were in Hong Kong.
Rad.
Dude, when we got to Hong Kong, you know, a general prize purse, like $50,000 total prize purse, would be a huge competition.
Be huge.
This one was about 150.
What, for wake surfing?
Yeah, and all the athletes, it was kind of an invite only at the pros. The athletes got their airfare taken care of, all their accommodations taken care of.
That's more than any snowboard thing. So actually, we should talk about this. You've been approaching the natural selection guys because they're doing ski, snowboard, surf right now, right? Is that what they're doing?
Mountain biking as well, yeah.
They've got mountain biking in there too. I had no idea that was the grand scheme for the natural selection format.
Well,
but
you've been paying attention too.
It makes sense. Yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah. Well, if you start talking to them, Carter Westfall, you know, I'm not sure if you've talked to him, but real good visionary type guy. And then, dude, I'm on conference calls with Travis Rice. I'm like,
that's crazy.
What? Like, you know, he loves wake surfing as well, right? And I think my vision is that, you know, we used to sponsor maybe 10 competitions a year, and a lot of those would be maybe grassroots in Alberta, grassroots in BC, you know, a couple of the bigger U.S. markets like Arizona, Florida, and Minnesota.
Sure.
Big markets.
Minnesota. I love Minnesota hanging in there with the rope toes and the, yeah, that's epic. Yeah.
And the Minnesota kids, like there's a lot of them that are elite because
of course
they go to Highland Park and they do laps on that rope toe in the winter. Then they go on.
I think Chad Otterstrom's out of there.
Is he out of there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which he is the definition of a snowboarder.
Totally.
A
and it's like,
snowboarder.
You know, like Chris Grenier.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about, you know, we've all seen the videos of Red Gerard had a park in his backyard with a tow rope, and Chris created one.
Well, you're from where the McMorris brothers are from.
Well, geez,
I mean, there's no better Canadian example.
None.
Than those guys. Like, just all heart and soul.
Yeah.
And style for days. Both of them are incredible athletes.
It's so funny because I had never met them, but at last year's natural selection in Revy.
Yeah.
I was just walking, and who do I run into? Mark McMorris.
Unbelievable.
And I just said, hey, Mark, I'm from Regina. And he looks at me, he goes, so am I. And I'm like, oh, shit. You know, but, you know, and then we talked about, you know, where you would snowboard in Saskatchewan, you know, back in those days. And it was just these little hills. But I've seen what those guys did with snowmobiles and tow ropes and winches and all that kind of stuff. They basically invented street snowboarding, or in my mind, they're one of those guys who, you know, they got into that. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, use your environment, right? And then, you know, as time progresses, got to do a quick shout out though to Skull Skates, right? Like the biggest influence to me. And then I, you know, in my research, I find out they're actually from Regina.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Like, it just floored me, right?
Yeah.
That, you know.
Yeah, because he moved to California relatively quickly, didn't he?
I think
when he started,
there was the brothers, and then I think it was PD who's still here. I'm probably going to go to the store down on West 10th.
Yeah, he's in Qualicum sometimes, but he might be
I saw
here
that as well.
too.
Yeah,
dude's one of the most consistent people in skateboarding for 40 years.
Well, and they don't take any shit, man.
No shit.
And their own rules, right? Like, I don't think you could do it, to be honest with you.
No, he wrote the rule book for himself and stuck to it the whole way through. He's softening a bit now, just in the not everything has to be so crusty. Yeah. You know, he's actually, as most people with a very strong reputation are, he's like the sweetest person. That one of the sweetest people that I've met. Yeah. And he just has a big barrier on the outside, because once he lets you in, you're a part of his extended family, essentially. Yeah. So
well, I would love to run our business a little gnarly like that, but you can't these days.
I don't think you can. I don't think you could repeat what he's done. No. They came to him for thrashing. Yeah. Said, our budget's huge. We want to use Skull Skates. And he said, no, thank you. Yeah. Just, no, you're Hollywood. That's not what skateboarding is.
Yeah. Just core, man. Yeah. You know, but, you know, the lower mainland here, you know, Kevin Harris and the Richmond Skate Ranch. Yep. You know, I got Joey Shithead, Joey Keithley with DOA. They're still pumping out songs. Yep. You know, we'd come down here and skate the streets back in the 80s, go to a few punk shows, go to the ranch, you know. Skull Skates is over here. RDS, you know, like this is core shit, man. Yeah. And it's like a lot of people, I'm trying to bring that into wake surfing, because wake surfing was a lot of just vanilla, right? And I think that we've got maybe in trouble with it a few times, to be honest with you. I know.
Well, that means you're doing the right thing, because I mean, it just makes sense to have someone who's as passionate as you are out there supporting these athletes that are probably as passionate or more than you are on wake surfing. Guide the sport, especially when it's young, because it gets out of hand. I mean, we've seen it happen with skateboarding, with surfing, with snowboarding. It gets to the point where, my favorite quote from Salema Masakela is actually a surf quote. The biggest heist ever perpetrated on the world through surfing was that the surf industry made the world think that they were surfing, right? And that's not what it is. If you're in it, like, you know, wake surfing is wake surfing. It's like going. Yeah. It's wanting to go. Yeah. And it's progressing and enjoying it. That's what it is. You know, all the manufacturing stuff, which needs to be done, that's your business. That's your job. That's a whole other thing. Yeah. But if it facilitates wake surfing, then your job's actually pretty sick.
Well, and we, you know, I had no manufacturing experience. I had no retail experience.
Supply chain.
I had, you know, a little bit of supply chain from some of the, I worked in Calgary in the high tech industry, and, you know, by virtue of that, the oil and gas industry, and built some technology companies and sold them over the years, and you know, helped finance other companies and do some merger acquisition, all that kind of stuff. But it's sort of, you're either a natural at that stuff or you're not, right? Like, that's when I look at it. Like, you know, I love the Tom Sims versus Jake Burton days. Yeah, yeah. Like, it's kind of like, in many ways, Sims had him multiple times.
Oh, multiple
on
times.
The ropes, you know. But Burton emerged, right? Right. And it's like, why did Jake and Donna emerge, right? And then, you know, you look at what's happened to them maybe in the last few years. No secret with Terry not being on the team anymore. Terry is a top 4 guy for me, for sure.
Yeah. He might be the top. Yeah. He's top 10, top 5. Yeah, he's a good person. Yeah. And what happened was absolutely inexplicable. Yeah. Like Burton as a company could have easily pivoted and kept him on the team and done the same inclusion that they. You know what? I'm not gonna lie. From behind the scenes, Terry did a little bit to himself. He really didn't jump onto like the inclusion thing. Yeah. Inclusion just meaning everyone should snowboard. He believes that. I don't doubt that he believes that. Yeah. He just thought that they, you know what, I can't speak for him. Terry being off Burton was a tragedy that could be attributed to a lot of different things. Yeah. But I think it's the temperature of the mainstream. And when Burton has to cater to everybody, they've got to kind of go down that mainstream, but as a leader. That would be, you know, my guess. That's what I would want to do, is if I'm selling the most stuff, I want to still have the core driving it at the research and development level. Yeah. But
like Mark Solers, you know,
and also be driving in the right direction where we're including everybody and we're maybe degendering some boards, not because it's the right thing to do, but because it just makes sense.
Well, and sometimes I think people think everything's so deliberate, right? Like, I love the reference to Salema. What a great addition to Burton, you know?
Incredible.
I think that's a guy that, you know, he's been so active in the sport behind the mic the whole way through. Fascinating character. And I've never met him, but, you know, that's the kind of dude that I'd want on my team. Right?
Absolutely.
And then you kind of see some things, you know, we've gone through a bit of a, you know, we used to actually have a super huge pro team, but that's when, you know, everybody wanted.
You just said we used to? Man, I was looking at your pro team. You have got a double-digit pro team. Well, for a wake surf company, that's got to be a huge pro team.
It used to be a ton bigger, and a few of our competitive companies, our competitors have bigger teams than us. And I chose a few years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have some rules here. The first rule is you can't be rude. You can't be rude to me. You can't be, you know, kind of there's a bit of one of my competitors actually said this to me, and I've been thinking about it, that, you know, wake surfing is just a spoiled rich kid sport. And I know snowboarding got that a little bit too back in the day, just with cost of equipment and access. So I don't want to believe that, right? But I kind of look at it, and there's so many DMs that I haven't got back to people. You know, I want to come ride for a Kanuk. Can I be even just a influencer kind of thing, right? Sure. So the people who are on our team now, you know, I'd like to think of them similar to. You know, that they would come to me and they'd say, you know what, I always want to be on Kanuk. I don't, you know, they make money. I was always in like corporate management or sales management. So I've kind of made them like reps. That's why I like the Mark Solers interview. And I met him up at Sun Peaks, and I see what he does behind the scenes, not just riding, right? Yeah. And that's what I'm building my riders to become, is a bit of an ambassador for the brand, to go out and teach lessons and talk intelligently about the board.
So you can't be rude, obviously. That's not going to work in that position. Yeah. So you can't be a prima donna up here thinking you're better than everybody. You have to have that community-oriented mindset.
Yeah. And I kind of like let some very good riders just pass by. And now the team that we have, you know, like when we go to a competition, I'm like, we're podiuming here for sure, right? Like I have high confidence in them. Yeah. And I love that. I really do. Like,
yeah, that's got to feel good.
Oh, dude, it's like the competitor in me gets to come out to them because we collaborate on.
That's that Jake Burton thing. He was always insanely competitive.
Totally, dude.
Like, and it's whether it was playing ping pong or betting on sports or whatever it was, he wanted to win.
Well, and you've got the whole Craig Kelly story, right? Which is incredible. You know, there's been a couple of examples of that in wake surfing where you've got an athlete that was the poster boy for this brand over here. And now they're over here. Now that brand might not even exist anymore. There's a lot of that, you know, like it's talking about Chuck Barfoot boards and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of brands that just go by the wayside.
Yeah.
We're trying not to be that brand, but we're trying to like grow the team, or at least have a core that like it's recognizable that they are a Kanuk rider because they philosophically have the right makeup. Their riding's always going to be good.
Right.
But that's where I look at, you know, I was a little bit surprised that, say, Red Gerard left Burton, but I'm pretty sure Arbor threw him a lot of money, right? Like,
it can't be any other,
why would you leave Burton?
There's
right?
no reality in which Red Gerard is like, you know, I'm going to jump from the biggest team with the biggest budget, the biggest support system in the world, and go to a smaller company because I like the name or I like the dudes. Well, or it's like, no, it's got to be, it's a money driven decision, and it's got to be a lot of money.
Well, that's Arbor is private equity backed, right? They're just like Liquid Force, Hyperlight.
And we've seen this before. When Jeff Brushy went to Ride, like, look, I'm sure he would say so himself. I'm not positive, but like Ride put way less pressure on him. He didn't have to win anything. He could still go in the contests and just get 12th or 20th or whatever. Show up and sign posters. He had a pro model. He was the first $1 million contract. Yeah. Because Jamie Salter knew, look, just paying the guy $1 million is enough. He doesn't have to do any more stuff.
Well, and what's a better example in snowboarding that, you know, as much as I talk about Burton that's more the entire building of the company and the prospering of the company over decades. Yeah. But was there anybody cooler in snowboarding than the Forum guys?
Right.
Forum
exactly.
So I try to educate our guys because there is no template in wake surfing for like, we're going to be like this team, right?
Well, remember after the Forum 8, the Hyperlight guys did a Hyperlight 8 or whatever.
Something like that.
It was a very similar ad campaign, just basically knocked it right off.
Yeah.
And it was dope. I mean, because they had a lot of good guys. I think what you're doing isn't reinventing the wheel, but it's like taking the best out of all the histories of each sport and being like, okay, we want to select for longevity. Yeah. And we want to do, like the LibTech thing. Like Matt Cummins in the Mike Olson interview was like calling them being like, can I trade you some of my parents' like skis and things for a board? I want a board. Yeah. And he was just so persistent that they put him on the team and then they made a pro model for him. Yeah. Not because he was winning everything. I think he did win. He placed the highest of the LibTech riders at a world competition, which maybe was 5th, 3rd. I don't know. Yeah. But he's had a pro model for 35 years.
Well, another dude I met at Natural Selection was Jamie Lynn. And had
the best guy.
The best.
The best.
And, you know, so I've got to talk to guys like him, talk to Travis Rice. And, you know, the interesting...
Right, T. Rice is also on that LibTech team.
Well, this is where I'm going, is like LibTech actually makes wake surfboards. They're one of our competitors.
That makes sense.
You know, I think that it comes from their ocean
he loves surfing.
Yeah.
Olsen loves surfing. Yeah. He's into foiling right now. So foiling is kind of another focus that's probably going to take away from wake surfing focus, in my opinion.
Well, we're being dragged in that direction, right? And I'll tell you, we've actually done some foil boards
just to check them out, just to see if they'll
and then
work.
We've actually got a couple of collaborations. I can't really chat about them now, but we've got a couple of we're going to approach that in a collaborative kind of a way because
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's
because you have great boards. If you have great boards and let someone else do all the technical part of the foil thing.
Yeah. Or it's also the fact that we've learned to understand manufacturing. So we're talking to one foil manufacturer now that they're actually having problems with their supply chain. They're having problems with manufacturing. One of our guys in China, actually our Polish factory as well, they do foils.
Oh,
and they're pushing me to do foils, and I'm kind of like, well, maybe I don't know if it would be a coming together of the two brands. I don't know. I don't know if it's just a,
I understand.
Once upon a time, Volcom did a wake surfboard, I think, with Ronix or something like that.
I get that. I think for me, I've already brought up Sector 9. Mm-hmm. And Sector 9 and Airwalk are two examples of companies that were really crushing it in a niche market.
Yeah.
And that got kind of tempted out of their lane, and it was disastrous for them.
Yeah.
So I think personally, I'd rather be the big fish in a small pond doing it right and not halving my focus and pursuing something that's not like my thing.
Yeah.
But then there's also like the Burton model where, you know, Anon or something like that, where it's helmets and goggles.
Yeah.
And it becomes a significant side company of the main company without taking any focus away. It actually benefits it. So, I mean, tread carefully, because that one is, you know, especially when the things like foils are so expensive and the technology's moving so quickly.
Well, and I think that they're probably one massive lawsuit away from some real issues, because I've seen some ocean-based foiling that's, you know, you've got a lineup of people swimming back, and you're literally like, I don't know if you saw that video. It's like a foil. Somebody's doing a duck dive.
Oh no!
And the foil just goes like, didn't touch them, but it literally was like a few centimeters over the back.
That is scary. Yeah, they shouldn't be there. And then hitting a fish or a shark or a
a buddy of mine chopped his
dolphin.
finger off on an e-foil last year because it just started going and he was picking it up and it chopped his freaking finger off. So there's all these like liability things that's, you know, you got to be cognizant of, and you got to,
because if you're going to foil, then you should kite too. And then you got kite boards and foil boards and I mean, so maybe that's the super company of Kanuk. And can we actually pivot to the name? Like with this trade embargo and all this crazy shit that's going on, you know, Kanuk is obviously a slang term for a Canadian. I think I've heard somewhere that someone pointed out is derogatory, and I was like, no, it's not.
No, not at all.
No, it's always been the Canucks.
Yeah, it's a Kanuk. We're Canucks. We're all Canucks. Yeah.
But do you find that you're fighting against that name in any market, maybe in the States?
No, dude. It's, if anything, first of all, people don't know how to pronounce it because we spell it differently.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that it's the Vancouver Canucks.
Right.
Kind of spelt the
so
traditional way.
What do they
Kanuk.
Kanuk? No.
Kanuk. Like it, and it's all relative to their, you know, their native tongue, right?
Sure,
like, you know, we've got a lot of, you know, we're actually very big in Russia. Yep. We're very big in Dubai.
Wild.
We're very big in Japan. We're, you know, and all of these people, they don't know what it means. We actually trademarked the inverse N as well, so we've got that trademarked, and that's kind of like our Volcom Stone, or you know, that, you know, the Nike swoosh or whatever it is. I think it's just a perfect name because people, if they choose to ask, I'm like, it's a slang word for a Canadian.
Yeah,
it's plain and simple. Now, I also learned that if something's manufactured in Canada, it's kind of like a Swiss watch. People are like, "Ooh, okay, well that must be expensive," and like especially in Asia, they kind of look at it that way, right?
Yeah, because there's not much manufacturing of stuff.
No, and that's Canada. Why, you know, we did a run of snowboards, and we did them here with Rob down at Wired.
Right, which was right on brand. That's awesome.
And dude, when I went to the dealer demo day, and I'm as like objective as it comes. My favorite boards were the Wired boards that I rode.
That's rad.
He's just got some really good tech. He understands craft. We're a craft company too, right? I was ironically super disappointed in some of the big snowboard brands. I'm not going to name names, but I was like, oh, I really want to ride that board. Yeah. Holy fuck, that sucked. Like it was just terrible, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's maybe me too. I don't know, like
a bias or whatever. But no, I understand what you're saying. That makes total sense.
So we try like every kind of, like if you came to Kelowna, you could go to the Kelowna Yacht Club and ride our boards. You could go to Turtle Bay Marina on Wood Lake and ride our boards. You could go to the El Dorado Hotel and Resort and ride our boards. We try to outfit all of the various rental areas and people who are going to come out and maybe try the sport for one time. We've been in Canada since 2017. The Kelowna shop, which we had to fully build out in 2022, so we've been there for 4 years now. I guess this is year number 4. Yeah. It's not for the faint of heart, dude. Like, you need to have equipment, machinery, raw material supplies.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know, when the war broke out between Russia and Ukraine, we couldn't get carbon fiber. Just carbon fiber's gone, right? Because it's being used for war efforts and stuff like that. So okay, well, we can now get carbon fiber again. We better buy 3 rolls. Oh, that's great. Now I get to, come out of the pocket for thousands more, right?
Right.
And wait for those boards to be built in 8 months or whatever it's going to be, right? So
wow.
It's not like manufacturing is not for the faint of heart, but you go back to these brands, like I have tons of respect for LibTech. I would never say a bad thing about them because I've seen the evolution. Now I think they were owned by Quicksilver at one point in time.
They have struggled, or I don't know if that's the right word. They've gone through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Mike was there in a garage shop in the 80s.
Yeah.
And there's Squim Factory. There's some garage shop aspects to it still now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you look at...
and they're part Nidecker now.
Well, and that's where... Oh, did Nidecker take a piece of them recently?
25%.
Was that recent?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Because I was just going to mention Nidecker because through Mark Kowalchuk, I started buying Yes snowboards.
Right.
Love the vibe, Canadian, DCP. Why wouldn't I buy a Yes snowboard, right?
Of course.
Now them and Rome and Battalion and Lobster, I guess they rolled in, and they're all owned by Nidecker, right? So
Jones is in there
Jones,
too.
yeah. Like that's a conglomerate. Now, good on you, Nidecker family. I guess what they're doing is, they brought Craig McMorris over,
Yeah, that's a wild one.
But I scratched my head, and then I literally talked to Xavier Nidecker, and I was kind of like, damn, these guys are going to take over the world. And then he's like, if you're ever in, I think it's Geneva in Switzerland is where they live. He's like, we're right on a lake. We wake surf all the time. I'm like, I'll be there, bro.
You have to go, yeah.
Not that I'm looking to sell my company to Nidecker, but
I
respect,
it's worth it to go over and talk with like-minded people, because Nidecker and Nitro, both those, because Tommy DeLego's been doing it forever.
Dude, that's another brand, to be honest with you. Because of your show, and I've been able to go back in the history of snowboarding, and then to see brands that have died, brands like Forum that died and then recently resurrected. Is that really Forum? I don't know. I'm struggling. But I'll tell you this.
It's really JP and Peter, so that it's an aspect of it for sure, but I understand.
I can tell you, I have some outerwear of theirs, which is top notch.
Yeah.
And when people see me flying down the hill at Big White, they're like, Forum forever. And I'm like, dude, that was me.
Well, they spend a lot of money on marketing. I think that's the thing, is that right in the middle of the boom of snowboarding, they got a great team.
Yeah.
And they marketed the living shit out of them.
Yeah.
And they partnered with MacDog, who was like, there were tons of other videos at other tiers. There was only really Standard and MacDog, and they came up together. Yeah. So it was a special time. So it's not that time anymore in snowboarding. But so Peter and JP have to figure out what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to bring back? How are they going to do it?
Well, and then I actually know, I've gotten to know him he lives in Lake Country, Steve Hare, he's the Nitro rep.
Yeah.
I have tons of respect for Nitro now that I've gone in and looked at their history and looked at their survival rate, really. Like, it's competitive as hell in snowboarding, right?
Right,
and we're in wake surfing, we've had the brands come and go. There's sort of the private equity owned legacy water ski wakeboard brands. And then there's a couple of other players. We're all around the same size or whatever else. We're not pretending to be anybody in wake surfing. That's the thing, right? So when we get our riders together, I do a rider roundtable every year as well. Stole that from Burton. Yeah, stole that from my corporate days. You always have to get people off site. And we go around the horn and we talk about design. We talk about design in 2027, what's going to be hot then, right? One of our top selling boards this year was, the Pantone color of the year last year, right? My wife and my daughter are fantastic at this, right?
Cool.
And my son's talented, and then we bring all the riders in. It's truly collaborative, right? Like, we're trying to be that company. I don't know in wake surfing if there's other companies like us, because I specifically don't really try to follow them and try to emulate them. I'm just going back in the history, and then, you go to wake surf competition these days, and you see a variety of brands out there, but there's a variety of brands that's like, well, where's that board from? Well, that's just like a one-of or a one-off, or, they did 10 boards this year kind of thing, right? So I think that there's a lot of like history lessons from snowboarding.
We haven't mentioned pow surfing, and there's a real connect between pow surfing and wake surfing. And that's that it's smaller, more niche, and it doesn't need to be. Actually, pow surfing could be huge, but there's also Jeremy Jensen, and his pow surfboards are epic. There's the Shark guys; those boards are epic. And then you see the big brand boards. A lot of them are just something to put out there that doesn't have the passion and doesn't have, but it has the money. That's the thing that Jeremy Jensen brought up in the industry. Like, hey, listen, if you're thinking about pow surfing because you've seen me do it in your feed, or because you've been exposed to it for some reason or another, maybe consider, seeing as it's only like a $300 purchase, maybe buy your board from us, because we put our heart and soul into this. We didn't just add a board to the line because, oh, hey, we could grab some of that market share. Totally. It's the opposite of that. So I would imagine you're kind of in that position right now where, like you said, you're not looking at Kidder or Joby or something and being like, well, what wake surf are they offering? You're looking at your team and you're looking at your roundtable results of where is this going? Where are the people that are driving the progression of the sport, seeing it going? Well, and that's why, cool.
Too, some of the carbon fiber work we're doing in Poland right now, they were building, I think, somewhere between 10 and 20,000 Burton snowboards every year. So, and Burton was smart. It was just 2 product sets, right? Like, of their entire catalog, only 2 were done in that factory, and it was probably the same in the other countries. And then they just globally, logistically start moving boards around and wherever else. But these guys are smart guys. They work with carbon fiber and epoxy resin their entire careers. They've got some technology there that, frankly, they've got 4 machines that would cost me about $500,000 just to go and buy the machines.
Right.
And I'm like, damn right, so I'm going to work with you guys. And it's going to be one of those like supplements to our handcraft. I don't want to say that it's not handcrafted over there, but it's actually constructed like a snowboard. And we're starting to put like sidewalls in it now on the skimboards.
Cool.
So polyurethane colored sidewalls. Like, sick. Dude, like just, there's probably, I've had our pro riders test that stuff, and, there's some perimeter weighting now. You take a shinner, it doesn't hurt as much, but it looks badass, right? Rad. And so we're like, we do have a consumer market out there where people aren't doing 3 shoves and 720 big spins. They're just looking for a really nice board. And I think, I'd like to think, but I pay attention, there's a lot of people out there who think we're a top brand. So I'm like, I want to keep that. And that's where I always sort of go back to my history book, my playbook, and I'm like, where was Burton at this point? Because, I was talking to Joey Norsworthy, who reps Sims now around these parts. So Sims is kind of back with snowboards, right? And I was like, well, they were Sims and Burton, dude. Sims, Burton, Barfoot for me was the 80s. That was the 80s.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I'm like, one of them's gone, one of them's kind of back, and one of them's a dominant player, right?
Well, Sims is more likely to be an authentic brand than any other one. And in fact, Jamie did own it for a good period of time and tried to pump it back up.
Yeah.
Burton's the one that, if you're looking at it, the longevity, it seems to have come from, good business organization skills. Yeah. It sounds like that's where you're coming from in the first place, is a background in at least understanding how this works, right? Like, we've all seen the startup Sims style where it's all passion and no business sense.
Yeah.
Like, Tom sold the rights to the name Sims for snowboards to Brad Dorfman for $200,000 or something. And he took the check and he just vanished.
Yeah.
And then he came back and kind of tried to insert himself again, but by that point it was just Vision Streetwear.
Well, I remember that summer I lived in California. I went up to Santa Ana, and there was this was like a like a factory direct or a warehouse sale before those were a thing.
Right.
And it was Vision Streetwear and Sims. Boxes of shit everywhere.
Boxes,
I was getting like keychains of a snowboard. I was decked out in Sims gear. I just looked at a picture of my wife and I. It's our anniversary, one of our very first dates, and I've got this really funky Vision Streetwear. Like I was like, she had no chance. I was wearing Vision, dude. And so I think the biggest thing going forward, you would know something about this because of your time at the boardroom, but where is retail going? Where is direct to consumer going? Because there's some pressures. The one disadvantage I have as a brand that's only 8 years old is I don't have a rep in any market that's been selling to retailers for 30 years.
Right.
I don't have that.
Right.
I don't have somebody who can come in there and say, well, I can sell you a wake surfboard, but they also do ropes and vests and this and that. I don't have that. So it all falls to us. And so one of the things that we've done in the last couple of years is that we've been going more direct to consumer, a lot more, like the website's completely being redone, a lot of ads on Meta, a lot of ads on Google.
That's a really, really difficult equation to crack right now because you've got this old school thing, and the first rep, like heritage rep to really fall out of it for me that I knew was the ride rep. Russell Couchman. That's 25 years ago now. Dude. Where they just said the rep is making more than the Canadian distributor because of these, percentages.
Yeah.
And I think that, the rep game has been just stripped to where people aren't making money as reps like they used to. They've got to get summer jobs and stuff if they're winter reps, Yeah. And there's an argument to be made that the landscape's just shifted away from the big board shops like Boardroom and One Board Shop and Source. But I mean, visiting the Source last year and going in the Boardroom any day doesn't feel like that. It feels like these guys are on top of their game and that they're helping build these brands still. And
I think that those bigger shops, those bigger brick and mortars, those established brick and mortars, I think they're going to be okay. But I can tell you this, wake surfing, one thing in the wake surfing, our traditional kind of dealer network was the boat dealers, right? Yeah. So you'd have Mastercraft manufactured in, I think it's in Tennessee, and then, they'd have 300 dealers in North America, and you'd try to sell them some boards, and, everybody was there. But the biggest thing that we were running into was they all wanted those 9-month payment terms. There was a story, this is all over the press, but last year, this goes back a few years, there's the Malibu dealer in the United States, the biggest one was called Tommy's, and I think they had 13 stores. They, Malibu's publicly traded. Malibu comes to them and says, look, and these are rough numbers, but you've got a $50 million line of credit. We're going to offer you an incentive to buy another 400 boats, but you're going to need to increase that line to $150 million. Wow. So they do it, and they don't sell any boats. These boats are expensive. Yikes. Even at the wholesale cost. They go bankrupt. There's lawsuits. But we were selling boards to Tommy's in about 3 of their locations, and they were always like, okay, the next order, you got to give us those payment terms, right? So order
9 months, like, because 90-day terms was a big deal.
Well, I need to take that order in October.
Yeah.
I need to begin my manufacturing over the winter, and then when I send it out in April, they want 90 days from shipping.
90 from shipping.
So it's really 9 months. It's not 90 days. To me, it's 9 months, right?
To you, it's 9 months. Now I see where you're coming from.
So
right.
it was a business decision, and I said, sorry, Tommy's, we're not going to sell you any boards. Now my competitors did. And I'll tell you, when that receiver came in and took all the assets, the boards were the last thing that they were going to get money for. Of course, they're not paying those guys. Yeah. So for, a dealer like One Board Shop, and I got to know Murray this winter and would love to work with Murray. It's just from that traditional model of like, I can do the carrying. I can do it for select people because of their history, their credit worthiness, basically, right? But just for some new startup or something like that, I'm like, if I can't drive a couple of hours,